Hi, I'm Samantha Anderson, Director of Communications for Newton Public Schools, and I'm just going to go over our December 21st newsletter. As always, we have all of this information below in text and video and images. However, in case you don't want to read all of that and you want someone to go through it with you, just the highlights that you need to know, I'm going to do that for you. First things first, we have our Board of Education recap article. So, after looking at the data, the board decided 5-2 to return to school after break in yellow mode. This means pre-K through 6 will be on site and 7 and 12 will be in hybrid. The reasoning they gave for making that decision on the 14th rather than later is it gives students and staff some time to plan and some certainty of what school will look like after break. Just a reminder, if anything goes wrong, if the numbers increase a lot, they will revisit and make a possible change. The board also approved the KSHA guidance in relation to spectator allowance at events hosted by USD 373, with consideration needed to be allowed for certain activities based upon capacity limitations up through the orange mode of learning. This means that we will allow 2 parents or guardians per participant to attend events as long as the space allows this to happen safely with social distancing. Again, there's a couple other details there. This does include things like concerts and plays. And if you have a student in, a varsity game and a junior varsity game, you still only get 2 tickets total. You don't get 4. And then another exciting thing, the board approved a new audio-visual system for the boardroom. And it will support much better streaming with better video and, as you all have been asking, sound. This will be submitted to Sparks for reimbursement. The board also approved a staff recognition of $150 added to all staff members' paycheck in December. Sparks funds paid for about $92,000 of the stipend. The district will have to come up with $17,000. And last but not least, Jennifer Buddy resigned from the board at the end of the meeting. So USD 373 is looking for a board member. If you're interested, all you'll have to do is submit your resume and a statement that covers why you want to serve on the board and what you would bring to the Board of Education. And you'll want to mail that to Joni Jantz at 308 East 1st Street, Newton, Kansas, or email it to Joni Jantz at usd373.org by January 1st. If you applied during the last vacancy in the summer, you don't have to fill out another application. You just have to let Joni know that you were interested in this opening as well. In the superintendent's corner, Superintendent Van Rankin went over current quarantine numbers. He also went through the district cash balances. He included a link to a legislative post-audit that was conducted on cash balances for school districts at the request of the legislature. He said that for several years, they've had some groups after schools regarding their cash balances, especially when economic conditions lead to questions or concerns. He believes that USD 373 has been very fiscally responsible historically from what he's able to observe with their cash balances. And again, there's more details in the article there and the link. He also wrote about the Newton High School Principals Council, and that's made up of a diverse group of students who are leaders in the high school. And again, he questioned the group, asking for their feedback and answers. And some of the things that they covered with him would be an idea to have opportunities for students to get together during classes online in breakout rooms. That way they can collaborate and work together. They also suggested that they would like to stay in a mode for longer. Yellow, orange, red, they would like to stay in that for longer and be on site if possible. They also shared that they would like some sort of setup mechanism where students who are struggling can reach out to an adult or maybe a peer. They suggested more reminders on social media. And that was just a few things that they discussed. And Mr. Van Rankin will hopefully be back to get more ideas from our high school students. We will have another shipment of masks for students, and that was through a state program. We've requested enough to provide at least 1 mask for each student in the district with some left over for staff. and they will be shipped to the service centers, and we will get them out to the buildings. The Kansas Board of Education adopted some new gating guidance for modes of learning. The biggest change relates to pre-K through 5 students and keeping them on site as much as possible. And again, he goes into more details. And then some new information for K through 6 parents. In order to keep our students and staff safe, we are introducing into our K through 6 classes pods. One of the biggest challenges the district has faced with on-site learning in the younger grades is that there's no space to socially distance. One recommendation from the Kansas Board of Education was to think about pods. These pods are made up of no more than 5 students in a pod, with each pod 6 feet away from the next pod, or any teaching station or setting. There were a few reasons why they decided this was a good idea. First of all, transmission in the age group is low. While there is always a risk, the data reflects that a much lower rate in that age group. We can't socially distance in the current on-site or hybrid model at the elementary level, and we do believe that it will keep staff and students in the buildings out of quarantine. Again, this may not be a perfect solution, but we think it's a good alternative. And just to clarify, we will still be following all the other safety measures like masks, hand washing, and sanitation. The Newton High School Drama Troupe came up with a pretty fun activity for families in January. They put together a digital murder mystery. And it's a virtual experience, and for $25 you'll be given digital clues and a box of evidence that will help you solve the crime. You'll just need to sign up by January 15th to get a box, and the boxes will be delivered by January 22nd in a very COVID-aware fashion. The link to sign up is in the newsletter. Technology reminder: make sure you leave your Chromebook plugged in, and leave it plugged in until you use it again. Sometimes the Chromebooks won't turn back on if they are under 5% of their battery. We still have our hiring bonus for some of our key positions, and we actually have a video explaining what it's like to be a bus driver. And then there's a little feature on a neat earthquake experiment that Chisholm Middle School students were able to do from home, and we have our Railer recognitions and our staff shout-outs. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email info@usd373.org, and I hope you have a great break.